Wow, this is New York, baby. This is how we do it here, yeah, at the Robin Williams Center. So I know there are people at home that are watching too because we're live streaming. And then we'll also make this available online on the YouTube channel for SAG Foundation, SAG-AFTRA Foundation. So you know that, you can go back and listen to it. You're like, what did he say? What did she say? I want to get it re-inspired. And that's what tonight is all about. It's like kind of finding out the insider viewpoint because we're all actors. We want to know how you guys do it. So we're going to start first going down the line. And please introduce yourselves. And what I would really say, let's start out. What inspires you, to do your work? Okay. How's that sound? Amy, you want to start?
Okay, yeah. Hi, I'm Amy Hargraves. And what inspires me to work is really the moment-to-moment stuff that I see in my life, being a mom, but especially being a New Yorker. I love taking the subways. I love taking the bus. I like listening and eavesdropping, and I like experiences and feeling things and having adventures. And so really just life inspires me.
Awesome. Michael?
I'm Michael Cyril Creighton, and I'm inspired by the everyday sort of funny sadness that is in humans, and try my best to bring that out in my work.
Love it. Thank you. Margaret?
Hi, I'm Margaret Colin. What inspires me is to get a chance to act. It never gets old. No. Reflecting the human condition and maybe putting on somebody else's shoes that are different than mine, and occasionally getting to say great words from great writers. So.
Wonderful. Michael?
Hi, I'm Michael Potts. I'll tag on to onto Margaret, getting to express our humanity, great humanity, and also what really gets me is what is life affirming in what we do, what is life affirming and dealing with the human spirit, that indomitability of the human spirit.
Hey, I'm David Botrell. Well, David Dean Botrell, if I'm going to use my official SAG-AFTRA name. I think I'm inspired by, I guess I sort of think of myself and all of us as being in the mental health business. I kind of feel like when I have the opportunity to use my imagination and engage with the imagination of other human beings, that's extremely healthy for me. It makes me happy, and when the work turns out well, I think it makes other people happy, and I think it gives them a chance to sort of reflect on and understand something about their lives, and I think that's a kind of a cool mission for actors.
It's great. Thank you all. Well, so here we are in New York City, and of course we have this home field advantage with the theater here because it is such a big part of our lives here. And so, but we also have so much on camera work. So one thing, so many things I want to know about, but one thing I want to know is for you all, how you deal with going back and forth between the stage and on camera, and how you might approach things differently because you all do it. Would someone like to start?
The worst part about it is this selfie crap on the taping, the self-tape thing.
Yeah.
That's like the worst thing. So being really well over 50, the technology is daunting. And then I would like to be lit. Does anybody remember lighting on a set? I need some lighting. So the getting the job is hard. But now they even cast stage work from self-tape. Yeah. So you guys go now.
Well, we were told that we should, is my thing on? Yeah. We were told that we should talk amongst ourselves also. So Margaret, I have a really good lighting tip for you for self-taping. I'll share it later. Or maybe I should share it with everybody. Actually, no, I'll share it. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Please,
it's true. There's nothing worse than having to like self-tape in the ugly lights of your apartment or whatever with a bare wall behind you. So I have this, it's like a book light. It's called the Lumio. You open it. And I put it on the floor in front of me, literally. I have to be careful not to block it with my sides if I'm not off book, which I'm usually not off book for a self-tape. And I just put it on the floor in front of me, and it magically goes, oh. It's like a bounce card. It's like having a bounce card under your face.
Excellent.
So everyone go get one of those.
And so this is going to be great too. So when you're like, what did she say? What did Amy say? You can go back and watch the tape, and you'll remember what it is. So, do you want to say anything else though about
Wait, what was
not
the
just
question?
lighting?
I forget what the
It's
question
about
was.
going back and forth
Oh.
between the stage and on camera.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the hardest part is kind of when you do a play after haven't done it for a while, is that 8-show-a-week schedule for me as a mom is really rough, and that's the hardest part, really. I find if there's good words and interesting actors and a good director around us, it really doesn't matter if I'm, on a TV show or a movie or on stage, but it's the schedule that's tricky.
That's great. So go ahead. David, do you want to jump in? I mean, because you also teach, and also just to let you know that he's going to be teaching this Thursday here in New York at SAG. So you can take a free class if you'd like with David. Is that a good plug, David?
Pretty good one.
Yeah.
What's the class?
It's an audition class.
Wonderful.
That I've taught it a lot of places, and I'm teaching it for SAG-AFTRA on Thursday in the Ken Howard boardroom, and I think it's like 5 or 5:30. I'm sorry, I should know that, but I don't. Is this on? Yeah. Okay, good. But that's this Thursday, and go on the website and sign up, and it's really fun. And to answer your question, I think I'm always reminded when I do a play about what a different experience it is. It's so different than acting for camera because just the whole physical experience of it is different for me anyway. And I'm reminded that I'm stage really is an actor's medium. And I'm going to take that audience through this experience. I'm kind of like the captain of the ship. Once the curtain goes up, it's up to me and my fellow actors to take them through this. And they are very much a player in it, which is what I really kind of love about it. And that's just the interaction between us and the audience. And I always kind of love the gossip of like, you come off stage and you're like, this audience is dead tonight, or oh wow, this audience is great tonight, or whatever. And that's sort of lacking in the film experience. It's a very different experience. But I like that one too. I don't have a favorite. I actually like them both. But it's just the whole physicality of that is so different in my experience. It's really kind of fun.
Michael, you're rehearsing right now for a play.
Yes,
no,
I am.
Michael Potts, yeah. So you're there, and so do you want to talk a little bit about that, about being right back in the theater? Like, so let's say right now, so you are in rehearsals right now, and let's say tomorrow you have something you need to do on camera. How would that process be for you?
I think, I agree with Amy. Really, if you have a great script and you have great directors, you're going to do well no matter what. I guess the transition is on stage, it's more immediate, and you're dealing with externalizing a lot of your thought process or processes when you're dealing with the character. And it is that thing of it's in the moment, it's organic, it's surfing. You catch that wave, and that's just it. And you have to do that for 2 hours. There's no going back and repeating a moment that you may have screwed up. It's like you take note of that and you keep going. Whereas on camera, the camera can read your thought. It is simply needing to have the thought, having the specificity of objective and action, and the camera will pick that up. So that's a tough transition to make, or just remembering that, just the practice and the habit of getting into that you don't. And if you're coming off of something big, say doing a big play or doing a musical and everything, it's like remembering to pull that back when you get in front of a camera. Just technical things. It really is just technical things.
Michael, for you?
I didn't have any on-camera work until I was 30. So I was only doing plays, and I didn't realize that when you do on-camera work, it's like right away. There's no time to really rehearse it or figure it out and play around. It suddenly just happens very fast, and then it's over, and I was surprised how quickly that moves. So I've obviously gotten used to that because I'm a little bit over 30. But I was surprised. The biggest difference to me was in theater, there's so much time to explore and play and really delve into it. And I've found a lot of times when I go on a set, I just have to come ready and do it.
And there's a difference between film and television as opposed to film. And then there's independent film, and then there's big budget film, and then there's sitcoms, and then there's dramas. So they all, I think I agree with you, absolutely there's a pulling back.
Yes.
obviously for the lens, but there's also a speed. It's confidence. Film. It's a lot of confidence, I think.
Well, you know, someone wrote in, and Scott from the audience, thank you for your question, and he's wondering, how do you counteract self-doubt? That's a great question. Would anyone like to start with that?
I mean, sometimes.
Very carefully.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to go to bed for a day. I mean, that's honestly, sometimes things don't go your way and it's kind of rough, and then you just have to kind of find a way to pull yourself out of it and go clean out a closet or do something productive or go for a walk with your dog and just kind of, put your big girl pants on and keep going forward.
Buying stuff helps. I've found that being sort of, if I can control, the only thing I can really control is how prepared I am for an audition and how well I know the material and how much I honor the material. And then as long as I do the work, I just try to let it go when I leave and try to let go of that, why didn't I get it, why didn't it happen sort of thing. That's difficult. Honestly, seriously, this sounds crazy, but what I do now is I make sure I'm prepared, I do the audition. When I leave the room, I rip up the sides into little tiny pieces, spit on them, and throw them out in the garbage because I don't want to find them in my apartment when I'm cleaning. There's nothing worse than like going through papers and finding 15 sides of roles you didn't get. But I just feel like the only way I can know it's not about me per se is if I'm prepared, and there's 100 reasons why I wouldn't have gotten something.
Yeah, it's almost like a discipline in the way that you handle that by having a ritual afterwards and saying, and that is it, and then I am done. Because, I think one of the hard parts about it is when you feel really disappointed, really discouraged, is that the next day you're out on something else and you got to do it. And if you're bringing that, that's not what they're hoping, unless you're playing a really discouraged kind of character, I would imagine. But, learning to bounce back, because I think too, when you're at the beginning of your career, everything just feels like it has to be this, but you could, or else, but you could continue that through your career, but I would imagine having that level of energy and almost like a sense of this is it. I'm sure you've come across people who manage their lives and their careers in a way that you would prefer not to. So as far as your process of really getting in there, letting go, and moving on, it sounds like it's something that it probably hard won to have to go that way that you're talking about.
Yeah,
from experience.
But it's working. The more
Yeah.
I feel like the more rejection there is, the less it matters. I don't.
Wow.
It doesn't. I've had those times where I was like, this is mine. This is so me. I'm so right for it. And then there's just reasons that I don't get it. So
Yeah.
I've learned I can't do that anymore. I can't
Yeah.
put all of my emotional eggs in one job basket. I just have to let it go.
Right.
I find it can help if you you focus on the audition as the thing and not about the job that might come after it. And your performance is in the room, and you're there to create a character, and the casting people are bringing you in for a reason because there's something you've done for them in the past, or they know your work, or you're the right type, or whatever it is. You have to go in, and that's the performance, and you need to leave it in the room, and then you go away, and that's it. It's over. It's finished. You spit on it, you rip it up, and that's it.
Yeah.
And if it comes around for you this time for this job, then great. But more often than not, it's not going to come around for you because the odds are not in our favor. But I found that if you consistently go in the room and do good work and honor the material and just do honest work, then that comes around in its own way. That's kind of surprising. It could be 20 years down the line, but like my experience with Judy Henderson, I went to her office once a year for probably 15 years and never got the stupid job. And then I went in for Homeland and I got that one. And she kept bringing me in, and I was kind of discouraged after a while going to see her because I was like, oh, I'm not going to get this job. But it was a reminder when I got Homeland that, oh wait, she was bringing me in because she liked what I was doing. I was just not right for those parts. And it's true, when I was right for the part, Homeland, I got that job. So, just gotta
Yeah, that's great.
just gotta deliver the goods every time. It'll pay off eventually.
No, that's absolutely it. It goes back to the first question you asked, is about why we got into this to begin with. And I think we lose sight of that as we progress, or we get into the business itself. We start looking for other things out of it besides what we initially wanted to do. And that's when it becomes problematic. That's when the self-doubt really begins to take over, because we've changed and switched priorities. We made something else a priority instead of what we actually wanted to do from the very, very beginning. And it is that. You go into the audition room and you act your butt off. That's it, because that is the only, those 3 minutes, 5 minutes, it's all yours. I mean, it's all mine. I'm in control of that. I'm not in control of how they're going to view it or what decisions are going to be made in the room after me, so I don't worry about that. That's out of my control. But what I do for the time that I have is give the best that I have and do the thing I want to do. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm giving to you. Here's an option for you. This is my thing, and I think this is pretty damn great. So I'm offering it to you, and if you don't take it, okay, somebody else might take it a little later on. But it is that. It's just being consistent about it and keep going on, and that's a great story from Amy. It's about, oftentimes when I go into the room, the most important person in there is the casting director, because that director or producer is only hiring for that particular project at that moment, but that casting director is doing a lot of other projects. So you may not be right for that one thing. Something else may have come across the desk that they're going, well, maybe this.
So then it's also relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
It's relationship with the director that you
Absolutely,
keep
yes.
auditioning for and the casting person that you keep auditioning for.
Yes.
The question wasn't exactly specific about auditions. It just was about sort of self-doubt in general. But all this has been great. But I just kind of wanted to kick in. It was a thought that came into my head, which is I don't know an actor that doesn't suffer from a certain amount of self-doubt. I just don't know one. And I know some really successful actors. But I think it's kind of part of, this is a very personal business. I mean, I love it when people say to me, oh, don't take it personally. It's like, well, how the fuck did I not take it personally? It couldn't be more personal. And
Lie.
everything about it is personal. And so within that, I just want to say that, like, there have been times, obviously, in all of our careers when we wanted something and it didn't work out. And I used to just sort of take to my bed for a week about that. And I don't anymore. I mean, I'll be upset for a little while, but sometimes I can recover in as little as like 15 or 20 minutes now. And that's a big difference from the old days. But I do sort of think that to a certain extent, self-doubt is human. And it kind of always kind of inches me toward always trying to be better. And that helps me stay interested in the work, which is really probably the best thing you can be if you want to have a long career, is to stay interested in the work. Does that make sense? Okay.
I think good friends. I mean, outside of a great cocktail, good
Oh, yeah.
good friends that you can call, like, I didn't get it. I went in, I tried, I stuttered. My makeup ran, it was too hot, it was too cold. My underwear was in the dry cleaners. I couldn't pull it together for this audition, and it was, 4 minutes ago.
I don't have any friends.
And I think getting back into, getting re-inspired by, sometimes I just jump right into a book because I want to get into another world, an alternate world.
Right.
Or I get re-inspired by somebody's acting, or I go to the actor studio and I watch Estelle Parsons, watch somebody act and then give spectacular notes, and I go, all right, that's good. That's good. Because it is all about us. I mean, we are bringing us to it, and they are rejecting us. And then they are not calling back and saying that was great. And it's us that they didn't call back and say that was great. Or they can't even be bothered to call your agent or manager and say, yeah, no thanks, and, oh, did she come in? I mean,
Ooh, so painful.
it is, it's painful. So I think really, and then I used to make up songs, like loser songs.
I love this.
That was fun.
That's great. Well, these
just
all
remind me-
seem like really. Oh, were you going to share one?
No, I just
Okay.
laughing.
Well, let your imagination take you to make up your own loser song the next time you need to. But all these sound like really healthy ways of managing, because I'm sure we all know people who were super duper talented who just couldn't do it anymore, who just couldn't do the business anymore. I mean, and it just kind of breaks your heart, because you're like, why did they give up? Or what was, it can be the straw that broke the camel's back, you know, this thing that they really hoped to get. And so I think the other thing I'm really hearing is resilience. It's like finding ways that are healthy to deal with the reality, saying, hey, there's rejection in it. Hey, there's times when I'm not going to hear anything back. And even when you have the success that you all have, you know, because it's inspiring to see you all talking, well, just so very honestly. And I think it's just so helpful to be able to take these nuggets and see what parts work for you, you know, what you can apply tomorrow when you're at your next audition, or when you're performing, or you get a bad review. I mean, because that also helps, and that happens, right? I mean, and bouncing back from that.
I love what Margaret said about friends, having friends and having that support system. And I've talked to my college, my alma mater recently, and the students were asking, you know, how do you keep yourself sane in this business? You know, they're not in the business yet, but they're getting ready. And I always say, try to have as full a life as possible outside of this, because there was, I will say for sure, a time when I was a lot younger where I put all of my happiness on this, and it didn't work. So I try to have friends that are, a lot of them are not in the business at all. See art, they were saying, what books should I read? And I was like, what books about theater should I read? And I was like, you should read books not about theater. And just have a full life outside of it, so that all the happiness isn't coming from job to job. And that is also helpful, I think, in communicating. I had a couple of meetings in LA recently, and we didn't talk at all about my work. We talked about politics, we talked about art, we talked about food, tacos, lots of tacos. So I just think it's helpful to have a full life outside of the business, because when business is great, it's so great. But when it's not, you got to just be good and be great.
Another question I had about is having your own kids, and then how that influences the way that you play a parent. And would anyone like to? Yeah, please.
Sure,
Margaret,
yeah. It's funny because I played moms before I had kids, and then I played moms after I had kids, and I realized I was kind of faking it a little bit before I had kids. It's like, I don't know, I've been able to tap into something really kind of deeply emotional. It's a different kind of love, and it's something to, I don't know. I don't know if I can like articulate it, but it's allowed me to access a part of me that I didn't really know about before.
Well, and could you apply that to 13 Reasons Why, that she's on with Netflix and on Netflix? And yeah, I mean, isn't that a great? Have you guys been watching? I mean, whoo, that's
Thank you.
intense, yeah. But you know, playing and with the themes, the stories
Yeah.
that's going on. Can you just talk a little bit about your experience with whatever you feel comfortable with?
Yeah, no, I'm not only do I have kids, but I have teenagers exactly the age of these kids in the show. So I'm living this kind of, you know, modern parenting lifestyle with the social media and the, you know, the kids have really, I don't know, it's almost like a life that we don't really know about, you know, right under the surface, and it's really hard to kind of know exactly what's going on with them. So yeah, this was just an easy fit for me as a mom. It's rough stuff, but I'm happy to be a part of it, because it's allowed me to have really rough conversations with my kids about tough stuff. So.
And was that also? Would you apply that to Super Dark Times, that is in?
Tribeca.
Yeah, at
Yeah,
Tribeca
we
Film
just
Festival
premiered at
right now.
Tribeca.
That just happened a couple of days ago.
Thanks.
Yeah, do you want to talk about
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Because
that's I mean,
also in that
that's a
same-
little more like genre bending. It's a little more horror kind of stuff. There's a kind of an awful accident that happens. Yeah, but I feel like that's my wheelhouse right now. I keep playing moms of teenagers. I wonder why. But yeah, it's I feel fortunate to be able to play you know, something that's so close to me.
And for you, Margaret, do you want to talk about how that is?
I had to keep from scaring other people's kids. I mean, I have sons. So I'm running after them, and wrestle with them and pick them up. I don't anymore. They're 27 and 23. They pick me up. So as I recall, all those years ago, playing a mom, I had to be, I had to, really try to figure out what the parameters of the project were, and did we want to see that nice lifetime mom? Did we want to see, what kind of a mom was it? The project more told me about it. I was always really defensive and protective of the little critters when they're on set. When you do a commercial and somebody comes over with you've got a baby, and the baby wrangler comes over with another baby on top of the baby to make the baby smile and shoves Cheerios in their mouth incessantly oh my God. And I just think I can never do another commercial with babies in it again because they're treated like a football. It was really peculiar. And I can't fall in love with them too much because I have my work to do. And my kids are always my problem and my joy. On a set, they are not my problem and my joy. I give them a lot of respect, but I don't want to really mother them because I got to, mother me. I got a job to do, So, rehearsing with them. I actually prefer being on stage with kids. Because then all those people that get them to go on stage and prepared, score. All I have to do is repeat what we did in the rehearsal hall and make them feel, welcome. So, but yeah, raising kids now is, it's everything squared because of the media. They have no privacy. It's, it's crazy. But they're always worth it. It's the best thing in the world you can give somebody is life. So, yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. Michael, would you talk a little bit about playing somebody who is a real-life character, like you did in Spotlight?
Sure.
Yeah, what did you see Spotlight? Wow.
I played Joe Crowley, who was one of the survivors of abuse in Spotlight. It was the greatest honor and the most pressure I've ever felt. Not because anybody was putting pressure on me, but because we met and the way Tom McCarthy, who did 13 Reasons Why, as well, said, Joe would be happy to talk to you if you want to. And I wasn't even sure if Joe was still alive. It wasn't easy to find a lot of stuff about him on the internet. And I said, yeah, I'd love to talk to him. So I had heard a lot about him. I found an article that told me his nickname was Princess. And Tom told me he was a big Margot Martindale fan. So I called him. And I said, hi, this is Michael. I'm playing you in Spotlight, and I hear you're a Margot Martindale fan, so obviously we have a lot to talk about. And then we talked for a couple hours, and then we met in Boston and talked for like 5 hours. And he was so generous and open with his story, and it was hard. I was asking really hard questions, obviously, and am pretty emotional as a person, so I had to kind of shut that down because I didn't want to be, putting my emotions on top of him while he was very, calmly answering my questions. And then we parted ways, and I shot the scenes a couple days later, and my goal was just to kind of get his essence because I only spent 5 hours with him, so it wasn't like I was going to do a replication of him. He always reminded me that he was much taller than me, and I could never do that. We ended up becoming very close friends. And for the year before the movie came out, constantly were in contact via text and phone calls every other week. And I wanted to make sure he was, prepared for the movie and was going to be okay when it came out. And I was worried about him. And then I just wanted to make sure I got him right. And there was no way to know that until he saw it. So the filmmakers put together a screening for the survivors and me and Neil Huff, and a couple of the journalists came and watched it with them, and he was very happy. And then it was the greatest honor. Knowing him was the best honor. He passed away. I'm crying on live feed. He passed away on Easter Sunday. I'm really sorry. So it was a great honor. He was awesome. He was awesome. So it was great.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. I'm glad I did it live.
Yeah. Well, to have, I mean, that movie was just so gorgeous and so powerful. And for you to be able to, have a tribute to him in that. It was interesting too, because in that cafe scene, there's a little bit of humor that, it feels like and was that him or was that
Well, I
you?
mean, that's in the script. I mean, that script is that Tom and Josh Singer wrote is just the best. And when I read those sides for the audition, I was like, I have to. That was one of those ones I was like, I have to get this. And I went and I taped with the the casting director's assistant once. And I left and I was like, called my manager and I was like, I don't know if there's anything else I have to do, if I can Skype, I'm not usually that aggressive about it, but I was like, I'll Skype with him, I'll do whatever they need. The material was just so good, and I grew up Catholic, and I know that person, and Joe Crowley and I have very similar senses of humor. There's a lot of qualities we share. So the humor, I mean, those scenes would be unbearable to watch if there wasn't humor in it. So it's written in there, but Joe is so funny that it was just easy to pop that in. That's how he copes. That was a coping mechanism. He was just incredibly funny. And thank God for that, to bring a little levity. I just did another movie with Rachel McAdams, and I was like, I'm sorry I cried for 19 hours on set. And it's so nice to see you under these circumstances. But the humor came from him, but it was also in the writing, and I'm so glad it was there.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Michael Potts, let's turn a little corner here a little bit and talk about musical theater and your work in Book of Mormon. And just amazing work with that. And I'm just so fascinated, yes. I'm so fascinated with your ability to have the skill level, the skill set, because those are very specific skills. And going back and forth and doing on camera with your, with your abilities with musical theater. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how you, if you still love doing it? Because I know you're working on a play right now.
Oh, yeah. I love to work. Basically, that's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
And so whatever skill or whatever notion of talent that I have, I exploited it all because it's kept me working. As I said earlier to you, I've always been terrified of being typecast in any one particular thing because I always worry, okay, if that thing is not selling, what do I do? Well, I keep working. So it was always, as much as I was capable of doing, just pursue it all and saying yes to all of it. So when musicals came along, and they were the types of projects that I wanted to do, or at least audition for, I would pursue them. I didn't get all of them, but I would. So it's a thing of if they call and it's something I can read and that I like, I'll go in for it, as I would any other gig. So.
And for you, keeping your skill level up with that, I mean, with singing and dancing, how was that for you? Did it just stayed? Your
Oh, yeah. I'm as good as it is.
Well, you seem
I
to
could
go
not
back
step
and
back
forth.
into Book of Mormon at
Okay.
this.
We have plenty of other things that are going on right now. So, yeah, I'm sure if you wanted to, you'd be able to, though.
Well, I could if I really wanted. Yes, I could.
Well, I like that topic of feeling typecast. David, I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the idea of your image of what, we want people to think of us as, and your ability to just have this creepiness that you're able to, yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, it's so unsettling because you're so lovely and you are so present and available, and so many of the things that you do, it's like you're like twisting it, and you've got these wonderful accents that you're able to bring up that just add to it. Talk a little bit about that, about exploring those kinds of roles, how you feel about it.
Okay. It is one of those funny things because in a lot of actors' lives, as you progress along, you become oddly known for different things. I wasn't originally known for that. I was originally known for being very kind of sweet and innocent when I first started my career. And lately, like in the last decade or so, mostly because of the kindness of David E. Kelly, who put me on Boston Legal as a recurring psychopath. And it was... an astounding experience artistically, and just everything about that was an amazing experience. And when I would be handed these scripts, I remember at one point I was up there and I was looking at it and I said to the director, well, how dark does he want this to go? And he said, I don't know, go all the way. And I was like, okay. And I did. And then there was this strange, when I was done, there was this strange kind of silence on the set. And I found that people were like, looked at me differently. And I said, is that okay? And they were like, that was okay. And so it became this weird, that particular arc, it's so funny. It was sort of this great blessing and kind of a curse at the same time, because people who didn't know me prior to that job were very frightened of me when they encountered me in real life. It was really interesting. I had to sort of say, wait, it's not me. That's not me. I'm a different person. And it was a strange transition, but then it has led to this kind of career thing that I'm often called on to do. And I've kind of, in terms of auditioning for those roles when they come up, I mean, thank God it's a little bit better now. I'm not playing quite as many killers as I was, but I was just kill for a long time. And, but I kind of knew what it was. Like, my job was to go into the audition room and make everybody in the room supremely uncomfortable. And then once I had done that, I had to make a little joke to put everybody at ease that I was not going to do any damage or hurt anyone, and they could hire me and be safe. So it's been an interesting thing, actually, and I have a strange kind of, I guess, a little niche in that front, that when they don't know what to do with something, sometimes that's the call I get, is like, we're not sure what we're doing with this. Can you kind of come in and do something? And I just very quickly, I will tell you that I changed agencies a few years ago, and I had a very good experience that I just want to share with you quickly, because it taught me something, and it's always good to be reminded that you continue to learn things as you go along. But I changed agencies, and the first job they sent me out on was something I knew I was never going to get. Like, I just read it, and I thought, oh my God, I'm never going to get this. This is so, it's like a bureaucrat kind of role. It's something, I'm never going to get this. And I didn't know this casting director well, and I thought, I don't want to go in and tank in front of this casting director. And I made a decision, which was, I decided I was not going to try to get that job. I was not going to try. And instead, I was going to show that casting director what she should call me in for next time. And I took a very different tact. It was not a funny role, and I made it into this incredibly nervous, fucked up, kind of Barney Fife kind of thing. And I got it. And so the next 2 jobs that I was sent out on was the same story. I read it and I thought, I'm never going to get this. I'm never going to get this. I'm not going to try. And I'm going to show them what I do. And 3 times in a row, I booked with that philosophy. So I do want to kind of put it out there that you sometimes forget that this business is about going into the room and making something come to life. You need to make it come to life in such a way that you personally, you the artist, can do, so that the message you're sort of sending when you go in there is, if you hire me, this is what I'm going to do. If you hire me, this is my brand, this is my take on this, and unless you tell me otherwise, this is what I'll do on set when you call action. And that's a very different thing than trying to kind of fit yourself into something. Does that, you know what I'm saying by that?
That's so great.
And it was very...
That's so great. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Just to jump on that, I had a tendency to type myself out of things and say, no, I know what type I am, and I'm not right for that, just like you would. And I was called in for a play at Playwrights Horizons a few years ago. I had worked in the box office at Playwrights Horizons for 8 years while I was taking vacation days to do acting jobs, and I always thought that acting job would get me out of there. I won a Writers Guild at one point for a web series, and I was like, now I'm leaving. I was there for 2 more years. Surprise, me. So I left, and then about 5 months later, I got called in for a play there. And I did a little research. It was a Sarah Ruhl play, and the part was, they had done it in Chicago before, and it was the New York premiere, and the part was played by this really beautiful blonde guy with great bone structure and just not my type. So I almost said no. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I can't. I don't want to embarrass myself. I'll never get it, just like you. I ended up getting it. They didn't change any of the words in the script. They just adjusted the play to my type. And because of that, someone saw it and recommended me for Spotlight to Tom. So always just go in and do it, I guess. Don't type yourself out.
Well, one of the things that we talk about a lot on these panels when we have casting directors here is one of the things that comes up is how to stay in touch with them, how to have a sense of longevity with them. How do you approach, and whoever would like to start with this, just like staying in contact with industry people, be it your agents and managers, but also maybe casting and directors that you love, writers that you love. I mean, can you just talk a little bit about how you manage it? Because I know everybody is completely different. But would anyone like to shed a little light on that?
I mean, I think it's very different in terms of like the casting directors and then writers and directors. Starting with the easier part, the writers and directors that I may have worked with in the past, you really develop a relationship with them when you're working together. So that's kind of just almost like a professional friendship or an actual friendship. So, lunches, dinners, things like that. But for casting directors, I don't know. I mean, I don't really keep in touch with casting. Do you guys? I mean, I guess there's like the whole social media thing where you can follow them on Twitter and things like that. But I don't know. I don't really have a good
Well,
answer
it's a
for that.
couple, because a lot of them, believe it or not, in New York, a lot of them go and see theater.
Right.
So not only are they casting you for the screen, but they come and see shows. So I tend to see them that way. So they're one or two, but the majority, no. You don't have that. I don't have that kind of relationship with.
There are a couple that I actually know. I can say I know them. They're a friend of mine, but the majority of those people are so barraged.
Yeah.
That I found they're not super interested in being friends with actors. To me, they just aren't. They would never get anything done, in their lives if they were answering all the messages and cards and letters and whatever. So I respect that. I actually kind of understand that that's not an easy job being a casting director. It's a lot of drama, and that's not the auditions I'm talking about. It's a lot of drama to be a casting director. So I kind of respect them. With agents, I drop off candy at my agent's office because I don't know what to say to them, so I drop off candy. Hi, it's me, here's some candy, and they love me.
Tomorrow, candy. All right. Yeah. Well, this is a great question from Bethany that just came in. Can you think of a successful way to nudge your agent into being more proactive with pushes and such? I guess candy is the answer.
Candy, pretty much candy.
Yeah.
Well, I think that it's very helpful for any sort of representation agents or managers. They want to feel like they're part of a team that's pushing forward. So if you come at them with this attitude of like, how come you're not getting me in for this? Or I need to be sent out more, that's not going to help. I think it's got to be like, you need to show the things that you're doing to push your career forward. Whether it's, I just had lunch with the director I worked with last week I'm going to read his next, screenplay and give him notes on it or whatever. So I think it's about your approach and your attitude. And if you're like a team player and bringing, trying to rise the boat all together, then that's going to be much more receptive than you calling and saying, my friend went in on this, how come I'm not going in on it? Or if it's that thing where like there's a thing going on, you want them to submit you or get you in the door, you need to come with ideas and be like, I met with that casting director 2 years ago and got a call back for this thing and I really think I'm right for it. Would you be able, do you have any pull in that office? Because I'd love to get in for that. And, it's about the approach.
And the balance of how much you do that. Because there is
Right.
something like,
Right, absolutely.
I learned to trust that they are doing
Absolutely.
work. And they often are, and I have no idea. Like, they'll save information for me until the last minute because they know I am obsessive. And I'll just be like, did you hear anything else then? Did you hear anything else? And so they wait until things are sort of settled and tell me. And that's really helpful. But I trust them enough to know that they are working on my behalf. And sometimes I'll throw in an idea there, but it works better when I just let them do their thing, I think.
But Amy, what you're talking about too is that, you're out there doing things and creating and sustaining relationships that feel meaningful to you. I mean, because you work together.
They are meaningful. Like
Yeah.
that's your creative community that you're building. I've been in Screen Actors Guild since 1982. I know a lot of people that I've worked with over the years, and those are solid creative partnerships that have
Right.
resulted in, amazing jobs and amazing opportunities, and a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's
I've
wonderful.
worked for one director twice, and that's it. No, Doug Hughes twice, Dan Sullivan twice. I've been working since I was 19. I'm not 19 now.
But what about like producers or other actors that you might meet? who
Actors,
become
yeah.
become
Like
writers
friends
and
and
directors
cocktails
things?
and cocktails and vacations and shopping and oh my God, kids, and oh my God, love, and oh my God, fat, and oh my God, should I take singing lessons at this age? Sure. Where should I go? Sure. Are you ever going to do a tap class with me? Yes. But I don't know how to nurture a relationship with a producer. I know how to show up in a room and get a job and look good at premieres and functions, or look bad, but be present and be polite and talk about in an intelligent way the thing that I just saw, and go backstage. And I'm really big into hail fellow, well met backstage, or don't go backstage. Just leave them alone. Leave us alone if you don't like what you're seeing. If you can't say, oh my God, you're great, you're not Olivier, and you're not going to go back and say, how are the children? You have to really talk about how great they were, or really don't go backstage. So I'll do all those things, but I wouldn't know how to. And every time I called twice the head of the studio and asked, because I had met them earlier at a lunch and asked to be seen in a film, and they called me right back and said the casting people are on it. It took me all week to get the flop sweat off to make the phone call, and it went nowhere. So, I'm sure for other people it went. So, I admire that you do that very, very much, but I have never been able to do it.
I don't have the balls to call the head of a studio. And
Didn't work.
And also, what I'm talking about is maybe more like indie film, like up and coming producers, that kind of stuff. That world, I've had a lot of luck with, kind of like creating relationships where they're like, oh yeah, she'll do it for nothing, or she'll do the ultra low budget, and we'll put her up in the,
Oh yeah, lots of those relationships.
I'll be there.
They're emailing you.
all the time. They're your best friend.
Yeah. So, take it with a grain of salt.
But I think that's the thing, is everyone's different. And when you're starting out, I think you find different ways and see what works for you, because who doesn't want repeat business? Because you think in a way there'll be a shorthand when you're on set, or on stage. As far as the process, and also that they can rely on you, that you're somebody who digs deep.
That you're not an asshole.
Exactly. If they want to spend time with you, that they know it's going to
Sorry,
be
live
a
feed.
pleasure. Right? It's the live feed. I'm sure they've heard it on live feed before. But yeah, so it's just so personal, and that's what's so great, because everybody approaches it differently, as everyone approaches roles, and also deciding what's next. Do you guys want to talk about that a little bit? Like how you decide what's next, either it's something that's just whatever comes down the pike, or, really shaping and saying, this is what's next for me. Does anyone want to talk about that?
Saying what's next is as if we have any sort of control. That's why I'm laughing.
Yeah.
We're all very fortunate and getting great jobs and hopefully paying the bills most years, but we're still, for me personally, I'm still going in the room and auditioning, and oh, you're in the mix, great, okay, you're not in the mix, okay, so what's next? We'll see. I have a few irons in the fire, but is it going to go my way? I don't know. So,
Have you felt at times in your careers where you felt like, I know what's next? Michael Potts, you were talking about not wanting to be typecast.
Well, it's not necessarily most of those times I had no idea what would be next. I just knew at the time that I wanted to move away out of this era. I wanted to move out of doing difficult language plays way downtown in the middle of winter with no heat. In the theater, I knew I couldn't do another one of those. I knew I couldn't do, Yes, next show. I want a heated theater. or doing somebody's independent film. You know, in the Bronx, it's 94 degrees and 100 in the apartment you're shooting in, and they have no AC. You know. So it's more a case of knowing I've done enough of a particular thing. So I've concentrated in, I've done the musicals, I've concentrated over here for a little bit. Let's do some non-musicals, let's do some plays now. I played this kind of character on television or in a movie. Let's see if I can do something else. But having no idea what the next thing would be and sitting down and eating, you know, a lot of rice and spaghetti while I waited. Until it happened, until I went in the room and got that thing. So it's not, I don't get to choose. I
there is a
just make a
shaping.
conscious choice. It's
Yeah.
about the conscious choice to say, no more of this.
Right.
How about trying to get this?
Yeah, well, working as a freelance artist, you know, for the whole career, because every show closes, you know, and everything seems to have cycles, but there are also rebirths all the time. And finding new things about yourself, finding ways that you want to express yourself that you haven't had the opportunity to before, but maybe even through the team that you're working with or something that someone sees in you and saying, wow, we need you, you know,
But
to
it
tell
is
the
the thing
story.
that everyone was talking about. You can go into a room and do your audition, and suddenly you're seen totally different by a casting director. And there are tons of casting directors in the city. So, and each one of them can see you totally different. So that increases the possibilities of work for you. So it is the thing of going in and just doing your thing and doing it extremely well. Okay, that's the best relationship to what you're doing, to your craft and what you're doing in that room. And that leads to the work, and that helps give you more choices, more options, should we say. And that's when you get to choose, when there are options on the table, when you've created options for yourself through the work.
Wow. Can we just pause for a second? When you've created options for yourself through the work. Write that one down on a Post-it note. That's
Really good.
so
Well.
beautiful.
Well, I can leave now.
You said you just wanted one question, right? When we were talking earlier. But no, that's
Money
beautiful.
gives you options too. You can go for,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
money is a good thing.
Right. That
Yeah,
can,
a money gig, a
yeah.
heated theater, you know, a couple of
Yeah.
money gigs with a lot of exposure. You can go someplace with the kids and have a vacation. You can go someplace with the kids that is a vacation when you work there.
Mm-hmm.
You can get more options when you can make when you have a couple of money gigs.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
David?
I was just sort of thinking a little bit about, I mean, I think we've already covered the fact that this is a business that is largely about chance. You know, the phone rings and then something happens or it doesn't. But one thing that I have thought a little bit about, and I've also sort of noticed with people like myself who've been around a long time, is longevity. Some of the things that sort of contribute to longevity. And I can't tell you, I mean, I couldn't, I've been this for a long time, like 35 years. I can't tell you the number of times I did something for free that then led me to a job that paid me some good money. And I could never have foreseen that. But I mean, a few years ago, I was in the gym, and some guy walked up to me who I did not know and said, I have an idea. I've seen you on TV, and I have this idea for this like comedy review, and I think it's really funny. Would you like to be in it? And I said, what is it? And he said, it's called Streeptease. And it's an all-male review. It's like guys doing monologues from Meryl Streep movies. And I thought that was the funniest idea. Like, I was laughing in the gym, and I said, who else is doing it? And he told me a couple of the other actors who I knew. And I said, okay, if they're in, I'm in. And we were gonna do it for one night, and it ran for 3 years in Los Angeles. And it was hilarious. It was hilarious. And everybody came to see that show. And I never would have dreamed that in a million years. I never got paid a dime for that show, but it was so much fun to do. It was our invention as well. And what I want to say from that is I can't tell you the number of appointments and casting directors and things that came from that. Just because I sort of said yes to this kind of stranger in the gym because the idea was funny. And I can also trace that to other jobs as well, other things that I've done, shows I've done or short movies I did, or whatever, that suddenly like it just opened a door and it led to something. And I think that what I teach, and one of the things that I say to my students is, you know, you have to think of it a little outside of being paid. You have to think about what you love about this, what's really the fun part. Because the recognition and the money and all that's great. God, that's wonderful. But the real fun part is the doing of it. That's really the fun part. That's the only reason to really do it is if you love the doing of it. Like, you know, putting the puzzle together, because it's always a puzzle and there are all these other players involved and all that. That's the best part. And if you keep engaged in that, it's funny how things kind of, you become kind of a magnet. I hope I articulated that well, but anyway.
Michael, do you want to talk about the beginnings of Jack in the Box? Because it's about creating your own work. I mean, have you seen his wonderful series? It's
That one person did. Hey,
Yeah, they did.
hey, you have YouTube.
Yeah, well, I remember seeing it, and I thought it was brilliant. But and we talked a little earlier about the genesis of that. Do you want to talk about that because it's like kind of building on what you were saying, David, about moving through what you're experiencing and then deciding to film it and create a story.
Yeah, and a lot of people did that for free with me, which I will always appreciate. I was, like I said, I had not really had any on-camera experience before, except like a video podcast about TV for VH1 until I was 30. And when I turned 30, I was like, you gotta do something to, one, keep yourself busy because you're sitting in a box office for 40 hours a week. And two, just to like do something, just do something. I put no pressure on it. And I've always been a little bit of a writer. So I started writing this series about working in the box office at Playwrights Horizons, but I didn't tell them. And I would film it in the morning before work, 2 doors down. And I just asked people that I wanted to work with. And at that point, I didn't think I'd ever get to work with these people. I didn't think, you know, they were all people that I knew were friends because I had worked in administrative theater for so long, or was a fan of. So I wanted to work with Mary Louise Burke. So I wrote her a part. And I wrote everybody who was in this series a part and then just asked them if they would do it. Treated them really well, offered them a little like token. Most people didn't take it.
What was the you mean like something to eat? Or?
A charm, like a little charm with an angel on it. No, like a token of a monetary token. So I started it in 2009 before there was really a lot of web series around. And I made the first episode was just me answering the phone at a box office and telling everyone I wasn't a woman over the phone. And I was like, I'll make that and then I'll make it later. You know, it's just a teaser for something. And then I kind of got addicted to it and just kept making it. And joined the Writers Guild because of it. When they reached out, I was like, this is not real. This is not a real person asking me to join the Writers Guild because of my web series. This isn't a real thing. Ended up winning a Writers Guild award for the series and taught myself how to write for other people. Thanks. You don't have to do that, but thank you. Taught myself how to write for other people, write for myself, and keep myself busy during the downtimes. And it's a direct result of why I ever started working in film and TV, which I didn't think was my path. I didn't think at that time that was going to happen. I was at a party one night. Someone came up to me. They said, oh, I like your web series. And I had a nice conversation with them. And then they said, oh, the show I work on, there's a part that you might be really great for. And I was like, what's the show? And they said 30 Rock. And I was like, boo. But I had met them under, different circumstances. So I was able to be a normal human being. And I was like, cool. Yeah, I don't have an agent or any representation, but sure, I'd love to come in. So I went in. That was my first ever TV audition, like 3 days later. And that was my first TV job. And that person... You don't have to keep clapping for me, but I am pretty amazing. That person who was at that party was Katja Blickfeld, who is the executive producer and creator and writer of High Maintenance, which we have some people who are in that here. Who 3 years after 30 Rock, I worked with them on an episode of the web series for High Maintenance, and then this past season, which is now 5 years later, maybe, it went to HBO, and I got to play that character again in the finale. And that is all because I created my own work because I was getting impatient. So my advice often is, if you have the ability to write something for yourself in like a non-self-indulgent way, and get to work with other people that really inspire you, like you were saying, having people around you that inspire you, do it, because it will really help. I mean, I should give myself this advice every day because I get very discouraged by writing, but if you can do it, totally do it. It's very, very helpful.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, and even if you don't think you can do it, you got to try anyway. Because like he didn't think he could do it, and you did it. And even when Writers Guild came knocking, you were like, "What, me?" Right? But like you were doing a beautiful thing.
And now all these people are clapping.
They're clapping at home too, Michael. Oh, yeah. Now, someone had there's a question from someone in the audience, but they didn't list their name. But can you talk about going long stretches between auditions and how those stretches how long those stretches lasted? Because it sounds like, well, I mean, part of it is talking about, doing your own work, the in-betweens, when you are in between. But this person would like to know about going those long stretches between auditions. Any advice for someone who's going through long stretches?
Good to be pregnant when you're going through those long stretches. Gives you something to do. Like grow a
That's not
kid.
an option for everybody.
No. And then you have all that fun of trying to get back to work, and your quotes drop. And that's fun, because you've been out of work for a while, and now you've got somebody else counting on you. Long periods between auditions is really hard. It's, I wonder about my worth. I wonder if, I'm completely forgotten or only going to be playing Eleanor for the rest of time, but then there's that full life, this beautiful gift that we have. There's life and love and travel and cooking and the sky. It's really recognizing to be an actor, you've got to have a real appreciation for the world. So I think at the same time that we're trying to stay viable and create work for ourselves, you're so incredibly open to the story of the abused person that you played in Spotlight, because you're an open person. I don't even know you, and I can see that you really enjoy learning in life. And everybody's got this terrific energy coming off here, because I'm sure we're not all always positive, but the long times between auditions can sometimes be the richest times in your life.
Absolutely.
Kind of up to what you do with it.
Yeah. When I was at my college, I went to Emerson, and one of the seniors said, I want to go and travel a little bit right out of college. Should I not do that? And I said, you are crazy. You should do it. There is no rush. Totally. Don't put the other things on hold. They said, like, when I was in my 20s, I would say no to so many things so I could, what if I got a play downtown under St. Mark's? I can't go on that vacation.
With no heat.
With no heat and a rat smell, a really pungent rat smell. But so I said, I said no to so many things, and that's just, during the time, I don't try to wait for the next job. I just try to fill the life with other stuff.
Yeah, you have to live your life. This is not the only thing, and you really can't be good at what you're doing if you're not living your life. If you're not taking it in. I mean, it's crazy. It's gonna make you nuts if you spend every minute worried about the next job or worrying at the next audition. They will come. If you were good, they're going to come. Maybe not as frequently as we'd like, and that's when, yes, the big monster of self-doubt comes in. That thing comes back again, and you take out a knife and stab it a few times, and say, get back. That's not going to happen today. But you live. You go out and you do other things. You travel. You go walk on the High Line. You do stuff with people, because it's going to make you a better actor in the end.
Well, I think it's also finding ways to just value being a person. Getting back to people maybe who helped you when you started out if you can. I mean, you're talking about, going back, and David talking about, the teaching. It's like you're almost re-inspiring that early artist that you were, finding a way to connect with that. And also that just this sense of, I am only valuable if I am cast in this, which oftentimes it's so arbitrary, because I'm sure everyone has stories about when I'm not going to get this, and then you do, or I'm totally going to get this, and then you don't, and you dig deep and you find a way to keep going. And I think that's part of what this program here is about. It's about, when you are experiencing those kinds of feelings, as silly as it might sound, there are all kinds of videos with the SAG Foundation where you can go back and just, hear what somebody else has to say that's traveled that road that you feel that you're alone on. And everyone's just given such great perspectives tonight about why you're in it, why it continues to excite you, that you're curious, And so I think that those are really important values. It's not just the success that that you've experienced, although how wonderful that is, and how that can build on so many different opportunities. I just like Veep is so much fun to me. That the fact that you want to talk about that
A lot of
little
fun,
bit?
yeah. It came out of nowhere, and it was, apparently it's really funny for people like Frank Rich. Frank Rich writes Veep. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. After all those years of opening up the paper and seeing what Frank Rich did to your play, their play, your friend's play, and now he's one of the brilliant writers for it. It's really
That's where he went.
yeah, after writing political commentary in the Times. So it's quite a cycle. They're wonderful writers, and they sort of improvise on the other side of the camera what your lines are going to be. And then
They shout out at you
Yeah.
from like Video Village. Is that true?
Yeah, and when the line that they're yelling out to you is,
Oh, really?
it's really fun. I have to go to confession, so it's really, and apparently it's really funny for them to see someone like me, someone with like a ladylike profile and playing a lot of sophisticated women, saying this foul, anatomically impossible language, and mostly she's just clawing and keeping her way at the top. So and everybody's on their game, so it's really easy to relate to, but it takes a kind of wonderful. Let's let it rip. Let's see what happens. And they also say things like the lines don't matter. The writers say the lines don't matter. Here we just want to, bring you. So it's really fortunate in this time in my life to be able, like, you're enough. Like you're enough. That's the whole thing, is that we are enough. We're enough.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure doing it. I can't wait for the rest of the season to go. It's really
we
good.
can't wait to see it. We're going to be winding up now, winding down, whatever. We're going to be ending soon. Is there anything that you'd like to say, just as a way to inspire, or even if you want to say, this is what I'm working on, I hope you'll watch it. Whatever you'd like to say, but just as we close this discussion tonight. They're so quiet now.
Come and see 1984. Opening June 22nd at the Hudson Theater.
Wonderful.
Oh, you're going to love it. Yeah. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be really cool and really disturbing.
Yeah.
As it should be with that
Why
title.
am I not in it?
Because Wayne got...
I can make it really.
I could be in that play. Why are we in that play? Come on.
I would just say be patient, and if you're in it, you got to be in it for the long game. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
Total sense.
I would say, and it's very Pollyanna, but be kind to everyone, because you never know who is who, and you never know who you're going to end up working with again, or sitting on a panel with, or something. I said, working in a box office, you know exactly what everyone is like based on how they pick up tickets, and I know so much about so many of you.
Anything you want to anything you want to tell us on live feed?
No. But
can
it's
smell
very
the vodka.
telling.
You can smell
You
it
can smell
through
the
that.
vodka through the glass. But it is very telling. Just even the smallest interactions with people are very telling, and people remember stuff. So it's, people have gotten very high up by not being kind, but I find it is helpful to do.
I don't think women have to be mean to each other to compete.
Amen.
And we are competing, and competing is okay. I think whatever body you're in, whatever weight you are, if you are in it for the long run and you choose to keep doing it, because there are other really wonderful things to do with your life. If you've decided, so many years as an actor, that's good, I'm going to give something else a shot. Or I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be creative in another venue. That's okay. It's still life. I think what I'm learning now, I know what I'm learning now is that whatever I look like now, however much the scale says I am, or however often I hit the gym, it's my comfort in my body, how I present myself for each character, and certainly when you audition, that really, I like myself better, so I'm easy to be around with the people who choose to love me. And I'm also presenting a character. I'm confident in the part that I'm playing in the room. I'm not apologizing for not being something I'm not, and I don't want to be. So I'd like to slam that home.
Michael, do you have something to say? Oh, you seem like you did.
No. Just to tag on to all of this, it's just the notion of what success is and what our definitions of it is. And it is that we're still doing it, that we're still here, and still are able to do this work, to act. I mean, some of us, you have the fortune of being in high-profile projects and things like that, but that didn't happen immediately, and it's transitory. It's not going to stay. It doesn't stick. It's a moment. It's a moment, and you move through this career from moment to moment. The hardest career there is, so you have to be crazy to be doing it to begin with, but it's moments. You're stringing along moments, and if you continue to do it, that is success to me, that you're doing it.
You bet. I actually was sort of taken with the title of this event, the journey of the working actor, because I was thinking about how when I first started out and I was a student with Bill Esper, and oh my God, 2 years of uninterrupted anxiety. I learned a lot, but I desperately wanted to be the next Sean Penn. I mean, he was the guy of the hour, and I so wanted to be Sean Penn. And I went all the way through acting school trying to be Sean Penn. And then I got out, and there was already a Sean Penn. They didn't need another Sean Penn. And I remember I got a Sean Penn-esque role. Like, I got a role kind of like a Sean Penn role, and I was miserable doing it. I was miserable. It wasn't kind of who I was as an artist. And then I remember getting a job in a comedy, and it was so easy, and my rapport with the audience was so much easy. And I suddenly thought, oh, I am not Sean Penn, and I'm nothing like him at all. What I do is very different than that. And what the journey sort of is in my experience anyway, is to stay current with oneself, to be aware, as we've talked about, that things change, and every 5 years that you're alive, you're a different person, and by that same token, you're a different actor every 5 years. And the ability to sort of, how I handle myself in an audition room, or how I handle myself when I walk on set and I'm working with a star, has changed very dramatically over time. And part of that is, like I said, this kind of journey and sort of claiming what I would call success. This is very fast. I'll do this quick, but I did a one-man show in Los Angeles, and it was not good. It was very successful. And we got this review from the LA Times, and when they described me in the review, and because this is Los Angeles, which is a slightly different world, as I'm sure you know, but it said, David Dean Bottrell, writer, actor, comedian, perched on the edge of success. I thought, I've been making my living for like 30 years in the entertainment industry, and I'm on the edge of success. that's kind of a Los Angeles thing that that equates success with fame, which is not at all the truth. And so I just always feel like if I'm auditioning, if I'm going into rooms and doing my little puppet show, and I take great pride in those, I'm a success. I'm in it. I'm part of it. And even Dustin Hoffman, I remember reading an interview with him years ago. He said, "Everybody, wherever you are, you're in line. Everybody is in line for the next job. No matter how big you are, you're in a line. And the size and the importance of that may vary, but everybody's in line, and eventually it's your turn." And I've always loved that, and I found it to be true.
Oh, thank you, David. I'd like to thank all of our panelists tonight. It has truly been just wonderful, just absolutely wonderful to have you all here, and wishing you continued success and happiness in everything that you do. And let's give them all a wonderful round of applause. Thank you from the SAG Foundation.